Hello, and welcome to Communicate to Lead, the podcast that empowers leaders and aspiring leaders to communicate with clarity and impact. I'm Kele Belton, CEO and successful entrepreneur, and your host for today. I'm here to equip you with all the essential tools and strategies to master effective communication and lead your team to success. As the founder and CEO of The Tailored Approach, my goal is to empower you to be the best leader you can be. So sit back, relax, and join me in today's episode as we dive into the art of communicating like a true leader. Imagine scrolling through LinkedIn, and there it is again. Another post from someone in your former company announcing their promotion. Your chest tightens. That familiar voice in your head whispers, everyone's moving forward except me. If you've been laid off recently, this scenario probably feels all too familiar. Maybe you're avoiding LinkedIn altogether because seeing your former colleagues' success feels like salt in a wound. Or perhaps you're paralyzed by the thought of reaching out to your professional network because you're not entirely sure what to say or how to explain your situation without sounding desperate. Here's what I want you to know. Your layoff doesn't define your worth, and it certainly doesn't mean your network has disappeared. Today, we're going to talk about how to rebuild and strengthen your professional relationships from exactly where you are right now. Welcome back to Communicate to Lead, the podcast for women in leadership and those ready to step into their next level of influence. I'm your host, Kele Belton. And in today's episode, we are going to discuss how to rebuild your network after a layoff. We'll explore why networking feels so much harder when you're between roles, how to shift your mindset from scarcity to strategy, and most importantly, we'll walk you through a practical framework you can use starting today to reconnect with your professional circle and build new relationships that will serve your career for years to come. Whether your layoff happened last week or last year, whether you're actively job searching or taking time to reassess your next move, this episode is designed to help you approach networking from a place of confidence and authenticity. Let's start by acknowledging something that doesn't get talked about enough. Networking after a layoff feels completely different than networking when you're employed. When you have a job, reaching out to colleagues feels natural. You're sharing wins, offering insights, maybe even helping others with opportunities. But after a layoff, suddenly every interaction has a different dynamic because your professional position has shifted. Think of your professional network like your personal board of advisors. When you are employed, you are the CEO actively engaging with your board, sharing updates, seeking input, offering insights based on your current role and responsibilities. You feel valuable because you are bringing real-time intelligence and opportunities to the table. But when you're laid off, it can feel like you've lost your seat at the table entirely. Suddenly, you are questioning whether you still deserve a voice in these professional conversations. This shift happens because layoffs challenge our professional identity and change the dynamic of our relationships. One day, you're Michelle, the operations manager who everyone comes to for process improvements and team coordination. The next day, you're Michelle who got caught up in budget cuts. That identity creates what I call networking imbalance. Suddenly, you feel like you're always the one reaching out for help instead of being the person others come to for expertise and opportunities. And here's something we need to name directly. Even when you know intellectually that your layoff was a business decision and not a reflection of your capabilities, the stress of job searching can start to chip away at your confidence. When you're sending out applications and not hearing back, when interviews don't lead to offers, when the job search stretches longer than expected, that stress can make you start questioning things you never doubted before. You might be thinking, am I as good as I thought? Have I been marketing myself wrong? Maybe I'm not as valuable as I believed. This is where the emotional reality meets the business reality, and both are valid experiences. But here's what I want you to keep in mind. This feeling is normal, and it's a practical reality. Your expertise and value didn't disappear with your job title, but the way you engage with your professional network does shift when you're not coming from an active role. Those relationships were built on more than your job title, even if the dynamic feels different right now. The first step in rebuilding your network isn't reaching out to anyone. It's getting clear on what you bring to the table, independent of your current employment status. You need to reconnect with your expertise and value proposition before you can confidently share that with others. When we are operating from urgency after a layoff, we tend to approach networking with what I call scarcity thinking. This shows up as messaging everyone you've ever met with your resume, posting desperate sounding updates on social media, or avoiding networking altogether because you're not sure how to position yourself without a current role. Scarcity thinking makes networking feel transactional and uncomfortable for everyone involved. Instead, we need to shift into strategic thinking, approaching your network rebuild with the same intentionality you'd bring to any important professional project. Strategic networking starts with clarity about what you are trying to accomplish. Are you looking for immediate job opportunities, seeking informational interviews to explore new industries, hoping to reconnect with former colleagues who might become collaborators in the future? Each of these goals requires a different approach. Think of it like planning a dinner party. You wouldn't invite everyone you've ever met and hope for the best. No, you would rather consider who would enjoy each other's company, what kind of atmosphere you want to create, and how to make each guest feel valued. The same principles applies to rebuilding your network. It's about quality connections, not quantity contacts. This strategic approach also means getting comfortable with the fact that networking after a layoff is a marathon, not a sprint. Yes, you might need immediate opportunities, but the relationships you've rebuilt will serve your entire career. The person who can help you land a role this month might become your biggest champion 6 months from now. You never know. The shift from scarcity to strategy happens when you stop seeing networking as begging for help and start seeing it as relationship building. You're not asking people to fix your situation. You are reconnecting with professionals who share your interests, values, and industry knowledge. Now, let's get practical. I'm going to share with you a framework I call the Strategic Reconnection Framework that removes the awkwardness from networking after a layoff. This framework has 4 phases: assess, strategize, initiate, and integrate. Here's phase 1, assess. Before you reach out to anyone, you need to take stock of your existing network. But this isn't about creating a massive spreadsheet of every LinkedIn connection. Instead, categorize your professional relationships into 3 groups. Your inner circle is the first group, includes the 10 to 15 people who know your work well and would genuinely want to hear from you regardless of your employment status. These might be former colleagues who became friends, mentors who've invested in your growth, or industry peers you've collaborated with successfully. The second group is your middle circle, which consists of professional acquaintances, maybe 25 to 30 people who know your reputation and would remember you positively. Think former clients, colleagues from other departments, or connections you've made at industry events. And then lastly, your third group is your outer circle, which includes everyone else, the broader network of LinkedIn connections, conference contacts, and distant professional relationships. Start your reconnection efforts with your inner circle. These are the people most likely to respond positively and provide the confidence boost you need to approach the broader network. That is phase 1, which is assess. The second phase is where we start strategizing. Before reaching out to anyone, strategize your intention for each interaction. This isn't about having a specific ask. It's about understanding what kind of connection you're hoping to rebuild. With some people, your intention might be pure relationship maintenance, touching base with someone whose career you admire or whose friendship you value. With others, you might be seeking industry insights or advice about market trends. And yes, with some contacts, you might be hoping they'll keep you in mind for relevant opportunities. The key is being honest about your intention, both with yourself and with them. People can sense when you're being authentic versus when you are following a networking script, and authenticity always wins. Next up is phase 3, initiate. Here's where most people get stuck. Actually initiating contact. The secret to comfortable outreach is leading with value and genuine interest rather than leading with your need. Instead of saying, "Hi, Jennifer, I was recently laid off and wondered if you knew of any operations opportunities." Try, "Hi, Jennifer, I saw your recent post about streamlining cross-departmental workflows. That really resonated with me. I remember we had similar conversations when we worked at ABC Corp. I'd love to catch up and hear how you are approaching this challenge now." Notice the difference? The second approach acknowledges your shared history, shows you are paying attention to their current work, and opens the door for a natural conversation about industry challenges you both face. For your inner circle, you can be more direct about your situation while still leading with connection. Here's an example. "Hi, James. I wanted to reach out because your mentorship meant so much to me at XYZ company. I was recently affected by layoffs there, and while I'm exploring what's next, I'd love to catch up and hear how things are going for you." And that is initiating contact. The last and fourth phase is integrate. And here it's all about integrating these reconnected relationships into your ongoing professional life. This means following up consistently, sharing relevant articles, opportunities with your contacts, and most importantly, looking for ways to be helpful to others. Integration is where many people drop the ball. They have great initial conversations, but then they disappear until they need something again. True network building requires ongoing engagement, even when you don't need anything specific. As a matter of fact, that is the best time to connect with someone when you don't need anything, because then the focus is really on building that relationship. Remember, every interaction doesn't need to lead to immediate opportunities. Some of your most valuable career relationships will develop slowly over months or even years. The goal is to be genuinely present in your professional community, not to extract value from every single conversation you have. But of course, even with a solid framework, like the one we just discussed, you'll face obstacles when rebuilding your network after a layoff, both practical and emotional ones. Let's address the most common challenges I see, because acknowledging them is the first step to working through them. Obstacle 1, I don't want to seem like I'm always asking for help. I think I've heard this one so many times from my clients. This concern keeps many talented women from reaching out at all. The truth is, how you are perceived isn't about your employment status. It's about your approach and the value you bring to the conversation. A strategic, thoughtful outreach from someone between roles is completely different from a mass blast asking for help. The antidote to this concern is being genuinely interested in the other person and their work, not making every conversation about your job search. Obstacle 2, which goes something like, I'm not sure what I have to offer right now. This is a positioning challenge, not a value problem. You always have something to offer, whether it's your expertise, your perspective, your connections to other professionals, or simply your authentic interest in someone's work. When you are between roles, you might actually have more to offer than when you are buried in day-to-day responsibilities. All of a sudden, you might find yourself having more time to research industry trends, attend virtual events, read thoughtful articles. You can be the person who shares valuable insights because you have the bandwidth to stay informed. And here's obstacle 3. What if they ask about my layoff? They probably will. And that is totally okay. Prepare a brief, matter-of-fact explanation that doesn't dwell on the negative details. Save the finer details for your trusted circle. So you could say something like, I was part of the restructuring at ABC Corp in January. While it was unexpected, I'm excited to explore what's next and potentially find a role that's an even better fit for my goals. Then redirect the conversation to them or to industry topics you both care about. Obstacle 4, I don't know what to say after the initial outreach. This is where preparation starts to pay off, my friends. Before reaching out to anyone, research what they are working on currently. Check their recent LinkedIn posts, company news, or industry publications they might be featured in. This gives you natural conversation starters and shows you are genuinely interested in their professional world instead of simply asking for favors. Here's the last obstacle, 5. I'm starting to doubt my own value. If your job search has been longer or more challenging than expected, you might find yourself questioning capabilities you never doubted before. This is a normal response to the stress and uncertainty of unemployment, but it doesn't reflect reality. The job market right now is challenging. Hiring processes have become longer and more complex, and sometimes it is truly about timing and fit rather than your qualifications. When self-doubt creeps in, go back to your track record. That's why I always encourage you to have your folder of achievements. Write down your specific accomplishments, projects you've led, problems you've solved, and positive feedback you have received. These facts don't change because you're between roles. You are still that incredible person who had those accomplishments. The key to overcoming all these obstacles is recognizing that both the practical and emotional challenges are normal parts of navigating career transitions. When you acknowledge what you're experiencing without judging yourself for it, you can address each challenge using the Strategic Reconnection Framework we discussed. Okay. While reconnecting with existing contexts is crucial, that's what we just talked about, rebuilding your network after a layoff also means strategically building new relationships from the ground up. This is especially important if your previous role was fairly isolated or if you're considering a career pivot. Building new connections requires a different approach than reconnecting with existing ones. You can't rely on a shared history, so you need to create common ground through shared interests, mutual connections, or industry involvement. Virtual events and online communications have made this easier than ever before. Thank you, COVID. Industry associations, LinkedIn groups, professional meetups, and even Twitter conversations can become starting points for meaningful professional relationships. The key is showing up consistently and contributing value to the conversation, not lurking and hoping someone notices you. When you do make new connections, be upfront about your current situation without making it the focus of the relationship. Something like, I'm currently exploring opportunities after a recent layoff, but I'm really interested in connecting with other professionals who are passionate about sustainable marketing practices, positions you as someone with direction and interest beyond the job search. New connections can also come through your existing network. Don't hesitate to ask trusted contacts if they would be willing to introduce you to others in your field. Most people are happy to make introductions and to support you when they are asked thoughtfully and when they can see mutual benefit for both parties. Building new connections from the ground up requires patience and consistency, but it's one of the most valuable investments you can make in your long-term career resilience. And so that is all about rebuilding your network. And I hope you come back to this episode and listen to it again. But before I let you go, I want to share something exciting with you. If this conversation about strategic networking and building your leadership presence resonates with you, I have some incredible news. I have officially launched a brand new membership community designed specifically for women in middle management and women aspiring to leadership positions. It's called the Women's Leadership Power Collective, and it's built on a simple but powerful premise. Stop working harder, start rising strategically. So if you want to get promoted, you want to get inside this community. Maybe you're tired of doing director level work for a manager's title or watching less qualified colleagues get promoted while you are told to lean in when you are already feeling burnt out. The Women's Leadership Power Collective is your space to transform your career without the grind. Here's how it works. Each month, we focus on one strategic skill through quick wins that compound over time. We set one boundary, practice one difficult conversation, master one aspect of executive presence or personal branding. These aren't small changes. They are the building blocks of lasting transformation. And that transformation is yours, my friend. Your monthly rhythm includes 3 live touchpoints, a focus workshop, a leadership lab for skill practice, and hot seat coaching where you bring your real life challenges and leave with expert solutions. Plus, you get 24/7 access to a powerful community of women leaders who truly get it and who have your back. Right now, during our founding member launch, you can join the collective for $27 per month. That is less than your weekly Starbucks coffee run. This rate is locked in forever for founding members, but it's only available until this Friday at midnight Pacific time. After Friday, the membership closes, and when I reopen the membership, the rate will be $47 per month. So if you want steady, strategic progress without overwhelming pressure, if you want a flexible path to leadership or senior leadership that fits the life you already have, this collective is designed for you. Click the link in the show notes to learn more and secure your founding member rate before Friday's deadline. Here's what I want to leave you with. Rebuilding your network after a layoff isn't about proving your worth to people. It's about reconnecting with the professional community where you belong and strategically expanding your circle of influence. Remember, your layoff is a chapter in your career story, not the end of the book. The relationships you build and rebuild during this time often become the most valuable connections in your entire professional life because they are built on authentic professional interest rather than convenience. Start with your inner circle, lead with genuine interest and value, and approach each interaction as an opportunity to rebuild a meaningful professional relationship rather than asking for a favor. Your network is waiting for you to reconnect. They want to hear from you, support your next chapter, and benefit from the expertise and perspective you bring to every conversation. Thank you so much for joining me today on Communicate to Lead. If this episode was helpful, I'd love for you to share it with another woman who might be navigating a career transition. Until next Thursday, my friend, I am Kele, reminding you that great communication is the foundation of inspiring leadership. Keep learning, keep growing, and remember to communicate to lead.